The white ship moved slowly through the darkness of space. Its name was Hope's Dawn, and it was different from other ships in this part of the galaxy. It had no weapons. It carried no soldiers. Instead, it carried doctors, nurses, and medicine. Large red crosses covered every side of the ship, telling everyone who saw it that this was a medical ship. A ship that helped people, not hurt them. Captain Daeho Kim sat in his chair on the bridge watching the stars. He was a tall man with kind eyes and gray hair at his temples. He had been a soldier once many years ago, but he got tired of fighting. Now he wanted to save lives instead of taking them. That was why he became the captain of a hospital ship. Near him, Dr. Mireille Park was checking the medical supplies on her tablet. She was the best surgeon on the ship, maybe the best human surgeon in this whole sector of space. She looked up from her screen and smiled at the captain. She loved this work. Every life they saved made all the hard days worth it. For 3 months, Hope's Dawn had been working in this dangerous area of space. 2 alien races were fighting a terrible war here. The Valthrex Empire and the Corthan Alliance had been killing each other for years. Nobody remembered why the war started anymore. But the dying continued. Hope's Dawn helped both sides. When Valthrex soldiers got hurt, the human doctors fixed them. When Corthan warriors needed surgery, Dr. Mireille operated on them. The ship did not care who was right or wrong in the war. Pain was pain. Blood was blood. A dying person was a dying person, no matter what species they were. Both sides respected the medical ship. It was an old rule, older than most civilizations in the galaxy. Medical ships were protected. You did not shoot at hospitals. You did not attack doctors. Even in war, some things were supposed to be sacred. Lieutenant Jinho Lee was young and full of hope. He worked at the communications station, and he believed strongly in what they were doing. He believed the galaxy was a civilized place where rules meant something, where good people were protected. His parents had taught him to trust in the law and do the right thing. Nurse Sora Choi was in the medical bay checking on patients. She had just finished helping a Valthrex soldier who would live because of her work. In the next bed was a Corthan warrior. Yesterday they had been trying to kill each other. Today they were both just scared people in hospital beds far from home. Sora treated them both the same, with kindness. Engineer Hyun Nam was down in the engine room making sure everything ran smoothly. He knew this ship was not built for fighting. It had no shield strong enough to stop weapons, no armor to protect against missiles, but it did not need those things. The red crosses protected them. The law protected them. That was supposed to be enough. The communication system beeped. Jinho pressed a button and listened. His face became serious. 2 distress calls had just come in at the same time. A Valthrex colony ship was damaged and drifting. Many people on board were hurt. At the same time, a Corthan military transport was also in trouble. Both ships needed help badly. Captain Daeho called a meeting. The senior crew gathered around him. He explained the situation. 2 ships needed help. Both had many wounded people. Could they help both? Dr. Mireille did not hesitate. Yes, they could do it. They would need to work hard and everyone would be tired. But they had enough supplies and enough doctors. They could save lives on both ships, the crew voted. Everyone agreed. This was what they had come here to do. Save lives. All lives. It did not matter if the wounded were enemies to each other. To Hope's Dawn, they were all just people who needed help. Captain Daeho gave the orders. Jinho sent out messages on all frequencies, telling both sides what they were doing. They were going to help the Valthrex colony ship first, then move to the Corthan transport. They asked both sides to respect their mission, to let them work in peace. The ship changed course. Hyun made the engines run at their best speed. Dr. Mireille started preparing the medical teams. Sora got the surgical rooms ready. Everyone had a job to do. As Hope's Dawn moved toward the distress signals, the long-range sensors picked up something. A large group of ships was coming. Many ships. All of them were Valthrex military vessels. A whole battle fleet. Jinho looked worried. He told the captain about the fleet. Captain Daeho stayed calm. The Valthrex knew they were here. Everyone knew Hope's Dawn was a medical ship. They had been working in this area for months. There was no reason to worry. The law would protect them. But the captain did not know what was happening far away in the Valthrex command center. The military leaders were looking at their screens. They saw the Corthan transport. They knew someone important was on that ship, someone they wanted to kill. They knew the human medical ship was going there. The Valthrex commanders talked among themselves. Some said they should wait. Let the humans do their work, then attack the Corthan ship after. But others said no. Every minute of delay gave the enemy time to escape. And what was one small human ship compared to winning the war? The decision was made. The Valthrex fleet would attack. The human medical ship was in the way. That was unfortunate, they said. But in war, sometimes innocent people got hurt. The humans would understand. And if they did not understand, well, humans were new to the galaxy. Weak, small. They would complain but do nothing. The Valthrex were about to learn how wrong they were. Hope's Dawn reached the damaged Corthan transport first. Captain Deho guided his ship close and the medical teams prepared to move across. Dr. Mireille was already in her surgical gear, ready to start saving lives. Nurse Sora had her emergency kits prepared. Everything was going according to plan. The medical teams crossed to the Corthan ship. They found wounded soldiers everywhere. Some were badly hurt, some were dying. The human doctors and nurses worked fast, doing what they did best, saving lives. They did not see enemies. They saw patients, then everything changed. The Valthrex battle fleet came out of quantum space. They appeared suddenly like ghosts becoming real. Dozens of warships, all with their weapons ready, all pointing toward the Corthan transport. And toward Hope's Dawn, Lieutenant Jinho immediately sent messages. He told the Valthrex fleet that Hope's Dawn was a medical ship. He showed them the red crosses. He reminded them of the law. Medical ships must not be attacked. He asked them to please wait until the medical teams finished their work. No answer came. The Valthrex fleet stayed silent. Their weapons remained locked on target. Jinho sent the message again, and again. His voice became more urgent. Please, he said. There are doctors here, nurses, wounded people. We are not soldiers. We are medical workers, still no answer. Then, without warning, without giving any time to leave, the Valthrex opened fire. Bright bolts of plasma shot across space. They hit the Corthan transport. They hit Hope's Dawn. The first shot tore through the medical bay where Dr. Mireille was working. She was holding surgical tools bent over a patient, trying to stop bleeding. The plasma bolt cut through the hull. It killed her instantly. It killed the patient on her table. It killed 2 nurses beside her. It killed 45 other patients in their beds. The second shot hit the surgical theater. Nurse Sora was there operating on a Valthrex soldier. Yes, a Valthrex soldier. She was trying to save the life of someone from the same empire that was now attacking her. The explosion was so big that nothing remained. Not Sora, not her patient, not the 3 other medical staff with her. Captain Deho watched in horror from the bridge. He could not believe what was happening. They were attacking a medical ship. They were killing doctors and nurses. They were breaking the oldest, most sacred rule of war.
Why would they do this?
He tried to move the ship to get away, but Hope's Dawn was never built for running. It was slow, unarmed, unarmored. The Valthrex ships were fast hunters, and Hope's Dawn was an easy target. More shots came. The communications array exploded. Jinho died at his station, still trying to send distress calls. Engineer Hyun managed to send one last message before the power failed. He sent it on an encrypted channel to Earth. He told them what was happening, that Hope's Dawn was under attack, that the Valthrex were killing medical workers. Then a plasma bolt hit the engine room and Hyun's message ended. The attack was fast and brutal. The Valthrex did not just damage the ship. They destroyed it completely. They made sure no one could escape. They hunted down the emergency pods that launched from Hope's Dawn. One by one they shot them. Small explosions in the darkness. Each one was people dying. Doctors dying. Nurses dying. Patients dying. Captain Deho and 12 others made it to the emergency command pod. It was a small armored sphere designed to keep the senior officers alive if the worst happened. The worst had happened. They could only watch through the pod's small window as their ship broke apart, as their friends died. As everything they believed in burned, their pod was damaged. It did not show up well on sensors. The Valthrex missed it in the debris field, so the captain and his 12 companions drifted in space, hidden among the pieces of their destroyed ship. They had some air, some water, but not much. All they could do was wait and hope someone would find them. The Valthrex finished destroying the Corthan transport too. They killed everyone there. Then their fleet left. They went back to their space, satisfied with their mission. They had eliminated an important enemy target. The fact that they had also destroyed a medical ship did not seem to bother them much. In the Valthrex Command Center, Fleet Commander Thask made an official report. He said that the human medical ship had been helping the enemy with military information. He said Hope's Dawn had lost its protection by choosing sides in the war. He said the attack was legal and necessary. He was lying and he knew it. But he did not care. Humans were weak, new to the galaxy. They would cry and complain, but they would do nothing. The news reached the Galactic Council quickly. Human ambassadors demanded an emergency meeting. They wanted justice. They wanted the Valthrex punished. They wanted the galaxy to enforce its own laws. The council met. They discussed. They investigated. They took their time. 6 days passed. 6 days while Captain Deho and his people drifted in their damaged pod. 6 days while the air slowly ran out. 6 days while they watched their friends' bodies floating in the debris around them. 6 days of hoping someone would care enough to look for survivors. Finally, the Galactic Council announced its decision. After careful investigation, they said, it appeared that Hope's Dawn had entered a dangerous war zone. Communications may have been unclear. The Valthrex may have had reasonable concerns about the ship's activities. In war, mistakes happen. These things are regrettable but understandable. No punishment for the Valthrex. No fines, no sanctions. No justice. Just words. Sorry this happened, very sad. But nothing would be done. The Valthrex Empire was too powerful to punish. Humanity was too new to matter. That was the real reason. Though the Council did not say it openly, the message was clear to everyone watching. In the galaxy, the strong did what they wanted. The weak suffered what they must. And laws only mattered when they protected the powerful. When they should have protected the weak, they were just words. Empty words. On the 8th day, a search ship found Captain Deho's pod. Only 3 people were still alive. The captain was one of them. When they pulled him from the pod and told him the Council's decision, he did not cry. He did not scream. He just closed his eyes and nodded. He understood now. The galaxy had taught him an important lesson, one that humanity would never forget. When Captain Deho returned to Earth, everyone wanted to hear his story. The government broadcast his testimony across all human worlds. Billions of people watched as the captain, still weak from his time in the pod, described what happened. How the Valthrex attacked without warning. How Dr. Mireille died while trying to save lives. How Nurse Sora was killed while operating on a Valthrex soldier. How the galaxy did nothing. People expected tears. They expected anger and shouting. But what they saw was something colder, something more dangerous. They saw faces that understood. Humans had seen this before in their own history. They knew what it meant when laws did not protect the innocent. They knew what happened when the powerful faced no consequences. They knew what silence meant. Secretary General Taewon Kang called an emergency meeting of the unified Earth government. Every representative from every human world attended. The chamber was silent as Taewon stood at the podium. He was an old man, gray-haired and tired. But his voice was strong. He asked 3 simple questions. If galactic law cannot protect medical ships, what can it protect? If the galaxy accepts the murder of doctors and nurses, what will it not accept? If we stay silent, what does our silence mean? The vote came quickly. Earth would leave the Galactic Council. All human medical ships would come home. Humanity would give no more aid to alien species, no more doctors for their wars, no more medicine for their sick, no more humans dying to save aliens who would not demand justice when humans died. But that was not all. Secretary General Taewon announced something new, a policy that would change everything. He called it the Reciprocity Doctrine. The idea was simple. Humanity would treat others exactly as they treated humanity. No better, no worse. Exactly the same. Admiral Boram Yoon stepped forward to explain what this meant. She was the commander of Earth's defense fleet, a serious woman with sharp eyes. She read the doctrine's statement slowly, making sure every word was clear. Humanity will no longer pretend that galactic law protects anyone. We will no longer help species that do not value the principles we value. Most important, we will treat others precisely as they treat us. If a civilization attacks our medical ships, That civilization has shown us what they believe. They believe medical ships are valid targets. So we will treat their medical ships the same way. We will do to them exactly what they do to us. The galaxy's response was mostly laughter and dismissal. Humans were nobody. They had been in space for barely 100 years. Their military was small. Their technology was nothing special. They were angry children throwing a tantrum. The Valthrex Empire issued a statement calling humans emotional primitives who did not understand how the real galaxy worked. The Corthan Alliance said they understood Earth's feelings but hoped humans would reconsider. They would miss the human medical aid. But they did not offer to help get justice for Hope's dawn. They just wanted the free medical care to continue. A few civilizations took the human announcement seriously. The Tharzan Collective had fought a brief war with humanity 20 years ago. They had learned that humans were more dangerous than they looked. They urged other species to be careful, but most ignored the warning. Humans were weak. What could they do? Earth began preparing. The military shipyards worked day and night. Admiral Borum reorganized the entire fleet. New ships were built. Old ships were upgraded. Training exercises intensified. Something was coming, but the galaxy did not pay attention. They thought humans were just making noise. Captain Deho was offered a choice. He could retire. The government would understand. He had been through terrible trauma. He could go home, try to heal, live in peace. No one would blame him, but Deho said no. He wanted to serve again. Not on a medical ship this time, on a warship. He wanted to be there when the reciprocity doctrine was enforced. He wanted to see the faces of those who thought human lives did not matter. He wanted them to understand what they had done. They gave him command of a new destroyer. Fast, powerful, armed with the best weapons Earth could build. The ship's name was chosen carefully. It was called Reckoning, because that was what was coming. A reckoning for those who thought they could kill humans without consequence. For 3 months, nothing happened. Human ships stayed in human space. Trade continued normally. Human merchants still did business with alien species. Human diplomats still talked with alien governments, though they no longer attended council meetings. Everything seemed normal. The galaxy relaxed. See, they said. Humans made big speeches but did nothing. They were all talk. They realized they were too weak to actually do anything. Soon they would quietly come back to the council with their tails between their legs. They would accept their place in the galactic order. Everything would go back to normal. But humans were not doing nothing. They were watching, waiting, learning where every Valthrex military installation was, mapping their supply routes, identifying their medical facilities, planning, preparing. The galaxy had taught humanity that rules did not matter. Now humanity would teach the galaxy what happened when rules stopped mattering. On Earth, in a small memorial garden, they placed a monument to Hope's dawn. 623 names were carved into the stone. Humans and aliens together. Dr. Mirai Park, Nurse Sora Choi, Lieutenant Jinho Lee, Engineer Hyun Nam, all the others who died believing that healing was sacred. At the bottom of the monument they added one line. It was a promise. It said, "Their silence will never mean consent." The galaxy was about to learn what that promise meant. The Valthrex hospital ship Healing Wind was doing exactly what Hope's Dawn had done. It was helping wounded soldiers near the Corthan border. The big white ship had medical symbols painted on every surface. It broadcast neutrality codes on all frequencies. It followed every rule, just like Hope's Dawn had followed every rule. Inside the ship, 847 patients were being treated, some Valthrex, some Corthan prisoners of war. Doctors and nurses moved between beds doing their work. They felt safe. Medical ships were protected. Everyone knew that. Even humans respected that rule. Right? 3 human warships appeared from quantum space. Reckoning, commanded by Captain Deho Kim. Silent Witness, named for those who died. Memory eternal so no one would forget. They moved into position around the Valthrex hospital ship, their weapons locked on target. But they did not fire. Not yet. Captain Deho opened a communication channel. His voice was calm, almost gentle, but every word was like ice. Valthrex vessel, Healing Wind. This is Earth Defense Fleet. You are operating a medical facility in a conflict zone. 3 months ago, your empire showed us that such vessels are valid military targets. Under the reciprocity doctrine, we will treat you exactly as you treated us. You have 10 minutes to evacuate all personnel. I suggest you use that time wisely. On Healing Wind, Captain Threll could not believe what he was hearing. Attack a medical ship? That was against every law. He immediately sent emergency messages to the Galactic Council. He told them humans were threatening to commit a war crime. He begged for protection. He reminded everyone that there were patients on board. Critical cases. People who would die if they were moved. Captain Deho's response came quickly. Hopes. Dawn had 623 patients and medical staff. Your empire gave them no warning, no time to evacuate. 0 minutes. We are giving you 10. I suggest you start now. 9 minutes and 30 seconds remaining. The Valthrex crew panicked. Emergency alarms sounded throughout the ship. Medical staff grabbed the most critical patients first. Emergency pods launched one after another. It was chaos. Organized chaos, but chaos. Nurses and doctors worked together, moving patients as fast as safely possible. The Valthrex had never practiced this. They never thought they would need to. Captain Threll kept sending messages to the Galactic Council, to the Valthrex military, to anyone who would listen. He described what was happening. Human ships were going to destroy a hospital. Where was the fleet? Where was the council? Where was the protection that medical ships were supposed to have? The human ships counted down. 5 minutes remaining. 4 minutes. 3 minutes. More emergency pods launched. Medical equipment was left behind. The doctors had to choose. Save people or save equipment. They chose people. Always people. At 2 minutes, only a handful of patients remained. The most critical cases. The ones who might not survive being moved. The medical staff worked frantically. One more pod, then another. Each one carrying lives. Precious lives. At 9 minutes and 57 seconds, the last emergency pod cleared the ship. Captain Threll verified that everyone was off. All 847 patients, all medical staff, all crew. Everyone was safe in the pods, floating in space, watching their ship. At exactly 10 minutes, the human ships fired. Plasma. Bolts and missiles struck Healing Wind from 3 directions. The hospital ship had no shields, no armor. It broke apart quickly. 17 seconds from first shot to complete destruction. But this time, no one died. Because the humans had given warning. They had given time. They had shown mercy that the Valthrex never showed Hope's dawn. Captain Deho sent one final message before his ships prepared to leave. His voice was still calm, but now there was something else in it. Sadness, maybe. Or just weariness. Let the galaxy understand clearly. We gave you more mercy than you gave us. We warned you. We let you evacuate. We followed the rules you ignored. But understand this perfectly. Any civilization that attacks human medical vessels has declared that medical ships are valid military targets. We will hold you to that standard. This is not anger. This is not revenge. This is reciprocity. You taught us this lesson. We learned it well. The 3 human warships jumped to quantum space and disappeared. Behind them, Valthrex emergency pods floated in the debris of Healing Wind. Everyone was alive, but they had lost their ship. And more importantly, they had lost their confidence that the rules protected them. The galaxy exploded with reaction. The Galactic Council held an emergency session within hours. Ambassador after ambassador stood up to condemn Earth. How dare humans attack a medical ship? It was barbaric, uncivilized, a violation of the most sacred principles. The Valthrex demanded immediate punishment, sanctions, military action. Something must be done. Only one human remained at the council. Ambassador Ji-Won Han sat in the observer section, not at the council table. She listened to all the speeches. all the outrage, all the demands for justice. When they finally let her speak, she stood slowly. Her face showed no emotion. You speak of law. Where was law when Hope's Dawn burned? You speak of sacred principles. Where were principles when our doctors and nurses died? You gave us investigations and excuses when we begged for justice. Now you demand we respect rules you refuse to enforce. The answer is no. We will treat you exactly as you treated us. If you want humanity to respect medical neutrality, then enforce it, for everyone, equally. Until then, we reciprocate. We mirror. We respond in kind. She walked out of the chamber. She did not return. From that day forward, Earth's seat at the Galactic Council remained empty. The chair sat there, a reminder that humans had been part of the galaxy, and chose to leave. The galaxy began to realize something. The humans were not bluffing. They were not seeking attention. They were not playing games. They meant exactly what they said. They would treat others precisely as they were treated, and they had the will to follow through. The question now was, would anyone else test them, or would the galaxy learn from the Valthrek's mistake? 3 more civilizations tested Earth's resolve over the next month. Each time the pattern was the same. An alien military force would attack a human medical vessel. They thought maybe the healing wind incident was a one-time thing. Maybe humans would not really do it again. Maybe they were just making a point and would go back to being civilized. They were wrong. Every single time. When the Drexen Confederation destroyed a human aid station, Earth located every Drexen military hospital within 2 days. 10-minute warnings were given. Evacuations happened, and then the hospitals were destroyed. When the Kelvar Union fired on a human rescue ship, Earth responded by eliminating their orbital medical platforms. Same pattern. Warning, evacuation, destruction. Each time, the human forces gave more mercy than they received. Each time, they provided warnings in time to evacuate. Each time, not a single person died because humans, unlike their enemies, actually followed the principles they claimed to value. But each time, valuable medical infrastructure was destroyed. And each time, the message became clearer. Attack human medical vessels and lose your own medical capabilities. Simple, fair, reciprocal. The Valthrek's empire was furious about healing wind. They had lost face. They had been humiliated by weak humans. This could not stand. The Valthrek's high command decided to teach humanity a lesson it would never forget. They would crush a human colony so thoroughly that Earth would beg for mercy. They assembled a massive invasion force, 70 capital ships, 300 support vessels, enough military power to conquer a small empire. Their target was the human colony cluster in the Deneb sector. 4 worlds, millions of human civilians. The Valthrek's plan was simple: invade, occupy, and hold these worlds until Earth abandoned the reciprocity doctrine and submitted to Galactic Council authority. The attack came fast and hard. The human colonies were not heavily defended. Earth had never been a military empire. The colonies fell within days. 4 human worlds under Valthrek's control. The Empire announced they would hold these territories until humanity learned to behave properly, until humans understood their place in the galaxy. The galaxy watched and waited for Earth to surrender. Surely now humanity would give up this foolish doctrine. The Valthreks were a superpower. Earth could not win a direct military conflict against them. The smart thing, the logical thing, was to negotiate. Give up the doctrine. Get the colonies back. Accept that the strong make the rules. But Earth did not negotiate. Admiral Borum Yoon called a meeting of Earth's military command. She presented a plan. The Valthreks had taken 4 colonies. Earth would not try to take them back through military force. That was what the Valthreks expected. Instead, Earth would do something different. Something the Valthreks would not expect. The plan was called Operation Remember. Earth would not occupy Valthrek's worlds. Earth would economically strangle 40 Valthrek systems. Human fleets would shut down every trade route, every supply line, every commercial hub in those systems. Not through violence. Through blockade. Through interdiction. Through making it impossible for those systems to function. The operation began within hours. Small human squadrons appeared across Valthrek space. They did not destroy merchant ships. They disabled them. They rescued the crews and treated them as protected persons under human law. Then they left the ships floating as obstacles, navigation hazards, warnings to others. Within a month, 40 Valthrex systems were isolated. No food shipments came in. No medicine. No trade goods, nothing. Billions of Valthrex civilians found themselves cut off from the rest of their empire. Stores ran empty. Hospitals ran out of supplies. Children went hungry. All because their government had decided to teach humans a lesson. Then Earth did something that shocked everyone. Human hospital ships appeared at the blockaded systems. Not warships this time. Real medical vessels, escorted by destroyers for protection. Captain Daeho Kim commanded the lead ship, a new vessel called Hope Renewed. It was bigger than Hope's Dawn had been, better equipped, and very well protected. Daeho sent a message to the Valthrex civilian populations in the blockaded systems. His words were broadcast widely so everyone could hear. We are here to provide medical care and basic supplies to civilian populations. Not because your empire deserves mercy. It does not. Because we are not like your empire. We remember what it means to protect the innocent. Your government chose pride over your welfare. They sacrificed you for politics. We will not sacrifice our principles even for revenge. We will help you because that is who we are. And we want you to remember who we are and who your government is when this is over. The image was powerful and deliberate. Human doctors treating Valthrex children while the Valthrex military occupied human colonies. Human ships bringing food to starving Valthrex families while Valthrex ships oppressed human civilians. The contrast could not have been clearer. Earth was making a point and everyone in the galaxy could see it. Inside the Valthrex Empire, problems began. The 40 blockaded systems were angry, very angry, not at Earth, at their own government. Why had the High Command started this war? Why were civilians suffering while the military played politics? Why were humans providing aid while their own empire did nothing? Regional governors demanded the High Command negotiate with Earth. Military commanders in the affected sectors reported that their soldiers did not want to fight anymore. Hard to tell soldiers to occupy human colonies when those soldiers' families were being kept alive by human charity. The empire was fracturing from within. The Valthrex High Command faced a choice. They could escalate to total war with Earth, which might trigger civil war inside their own empire, or they could negotiate from a position of complete humiliation. They chose negotiation. They sent a message to Earth requesting talks. Earth agreed to negotiate, but with 3 conditions. First, immediate withdrawal from all human colonies. Second, formal recognition of the reciprocity doctrine as legitimate policy. Third, public admission that the attack on Hope's Dawn violated galactic law and was wrong. All 3 conditions were non-negotiable. The Valthrex accepted every condition. The treaty was signed aboard Hope Renewed, with Captain Daeho Kim as witness. The empire that had destroyed his first ship now surrendered to him on his second ship. The man who had drifted in a damaged pod watching his friends die now watched the Valthrex admit they were wrong. The galaxy was forced to recognize a new reality. Earth had won, not through superior military might, not through advanced technology, but through absolute consistency of principle and the will to enforce it. The reciprocity doctrine was no longer just human policy. It was galactic fact. 1 year passed after the treaty with the Valthrex. 1 year since Hope's Dawn was destroyed. 1 year since everything changed. The Galactic Council was meeting in special session, and for the first time in months a human was present. Not sitting at the council table, Ambassador Jiwan Han stood in the observer gallery, watching but not participating. The council was voting on something unprecedented. The Universal Medical Protection Act. The law was simple and absolute. Any attack on a medical vessel by any member civilization would result in immediate consequences. Economic sanctions by all other members. Military response if needed. Suspension from the council. No exceptions. No excuses. No second chances. The vote was unanimous. Every single civilization voted yes. The Valthrex voted yes. The Korthan voted yes. Even the species that had tested Earth's doctrine voted yes. They all agreed that medical neutrality must be protected, that hospitals must be sacred, that doctors and nurses must never be targets. It was exactly what humanity had demanded a year ago. The law that should have existed before Hope's Dawn burned. Better late than never, some said. But many wondered, would the galaxy actually enforce this law? Or would it be just more empty words? After the vote, the council speaker addressed Ambassador Jiwan directly. Elder Vorath was an ancient Tharzan, one of the few species that had always taken humans seriously. His voice was rough but respectful. The law you demanded now exists. Will humanity rejoin the council? Jiwan's response was careful and clear. We will observe. We will trade. We will engage diplomatically. But we will not rejoin a council that required us to prove our principles through force before taking them seriously. You passed a law today. That is good. Now enforce it. For a decade. Against the powerful, not just the weak. Prove that this law means something. When the galaxy demonstrates that laws protect everyone equally, we will reconsider. Until then, we watch from outside. The council chamber was silent. They understood. Earth was not coming back easily. Trust once broken was hard to rebuild. Laws once proven meaningless needed years of consistent enforcement before anyone would believe in them again. But something else was happening across the galaxy. Other civilizations were watching humanity's example and learning. The Korthan Alliance announced their own reciprocity policy regarding civilian shipping. Attack our merchants and we attack yours. Simple, clear, fair. The Tharzan Collective established harsh penalties for violations of diplomatic immunity. Several smaller species created mutual defense pacts based on shared principles rather than convenient politics. The galaxy was changing. For thousands of years, the weak had accepted that the strong made the rules. Now, for the first time, the weak were saying no. They were setting boundaries. They were demanding respect. And they were willing to enforce those demands. Humanity had shown them it was possible. Captain Daeho Kim stood on the bridge of hope renewed. His medical ship was back to doing what it did best. Helping people. Saving lives. Treating patients from dozens of different species. Even Valthrex patients. Even soldiers from civilizations that had tested the doctrine. Daeho bore no personal grudges. His ship treated everyone equally. That was the point. A young medical officer approached him. Ensign Minho Park was fresh from training, full of idealism and questions. He asked the captain something that had been bothering him. Was it all worth it? All the conflict, all the destruction, all the hard lessons. Was it worth it? Daeho thought about the question for a long moment. He thought about Dr. Mireille Park, who had died trying to save lives. About Nurse Sora Choi, killed while operating on an enemy soldier. About Lieutenant Jin Ho Lee, who believed laws meant something. About Engineer Hyun Nam and all the others who died on Hope's Dawn. Yes, he finally answered. It was worth it. We lost 623 people. Good people who believed in something important. They thought the galaxy respected medical neutrality. We made sure the galaxy learned to respect it, not because we wanted revenge, because principles matter, because their deaths had to mean something. They believed medical work was sacred. We made it sacred. By force, yes, but we made it real. He looked around the bridge at his crew. Humans and aliens working together. Species that had fought each other, now saving each other's lives. This was what Hope's Dawn had tried to do. This was what Dr. Murray had died for. And now it worked, because the galaxy finally understood that medical neutrality was not a polite suggestion. It was law. Enforced law. On Earth, the memorial to Hope's Dawn had become a place of pilgrimage. People from across human space came to see the 623 names. To remember. To understand why their civilization had done what it did. The inscription at the bottom had been expanded. It now read, they believed in mercy. We made mercy law. They offered healing. We made healing sacred. They gave their lives for principle. We made their principles universal. They are not forgotten. Their deaths were not in vain. Their silence will never mean consent. Across the galaxy, something subtle but important had changed. Medical ships of every civilization now carried a small emblem. A white ship on a red field, the silhouette of Hope's Dawn. It was not required by law. Nobody made them do it. But they did it anyway. Every species, every medical vessel. It was a reminder. A promise. A warning. The emblem meant this ship is protected. This principle is enforced. Attack this vessel and you will face consequences. Not from some distant council that might or might not act. Real consequences. Immediate consequences. Consequences that you cannot avoid or negotiate away. Humanity had taught the galaxy a lesson that many civilizations had forgotten over thousands of years of comfortable civilization. Laws without enforcement are just suggestions. Principles without consequences are just words. Justice that only applies to the weak is not justice at all. And sometimes the only way to make people take you seriously is to show them exactly what will happen if they do not. The Volthrex had assaulted Earth's Red Cross. They thought human lives did not matter. They thought they could kill with impunity. They thought silence meant consent. They learned otherwise. And the galaxy learned with them. The night humanity taught the galaxy that silence never means consent. Only action means consent. Only enforcement makes law real. Only consequences make principles matter. 10 years had passed since hope's dawn burned. 10 years since the galaxy learned that humanity would not accept injustice silently. 10 years of watching, testing, and learning. The Universal Medical Protection Act had been enforced consistently during those years. Not perfectly, not without challenges, but enforced. 3 times, civilizations had violated the act. 3 times the Galactic Council had responded immediately with sanctions and consequences. The 3rd violation had been by a major power, the Drexen Confederation, which thought their size and influence would protect them. It did not. The Council enforced the law equally regardless of power. That was the real test. And the Council passed. Earth watched carefully during those 10 years. Human observers noted every case, every response, every outcome. They kept detailed records. They measured the galaxy's actions against its words. Slowly, carefully, they began to believe that maybe the law meant something now. Maybe principles were being protected. Maybe justice was becoming real. The Galactic Council sent another invitation to Earth, not demanding humanity return, not expecting immediate acceptance, just asking, respectfully, would Earth consider rejoining? The Council chamber had kept Earth's seat empty for 10 years. A reminder, an apology in the form of an empty chair. They were ready to fill it again, if humanity was ready to sit there. The unified Earth government debated for months. Some said yes, the galaxy had changed enough. Some said no. 10 years was not enough time to prove lasting change. Some said maybe, but with conditions. Finally, they reached a decision. Secretary General Taewon Kang, now very old but still sharp, made the announcement. Earth would rejoin the Galactic Council. Not because the galaxy had become perfect, not because humanity had forgiven what happened, but because the galaxy had shown, through consistent action over a decade, that laws could mean something, that principles could be enforced, that justice could apply equally to all, but Earth would rejoin with understanding. The reciprocity doctrine remained Earth policy. It would always remain Earth policy. If the galaxy ever again showed that laws were just words, that might made right, that silence was the only response to injustice, then humanity would respond exactly as before, with perfect reciprocity, with mirror-like precision, with absolute consistency. Ambassador Ji-won Han, much older now but still serving, returned to the council chamber. She sat in Earth's chair for the first time in 10 years. The other ambassadors applauded. It was a genuine welcome. They had learned respect for humanity, not because humans were powerful, but because humans were consistent, predictable. They meant what they said and said what they meant. In her first speech back to the council, Ji-won spoke simply. She thanked them for enforcing the law. She acknowledged the progress made. She reminded them why Earth had left and why Earth was returning. And she made one thing perfectly clear. Earth rejoins in hope, but with memory. We hope the galaxy has truly changed, but we remember when it had not. We will always remember. And we will always be ready to enforce principles if the galaxy forgets again. Captain Daeho Kim was also much older now. His hair was completely white. His face was lined with years of hard work and harder memories. But he still commanded hope renewed. He still treated patients from every corner of the galaxy. He still believed in the work, even though that belief had been tested in fire. He visited the memorial on Earth whenever he could. 623 names. He knew many of them personally. Dr. Mirai Park, who taught him that saving lives was the highest calling, Nurse Sora Choi, who showed him that kindness transcended species, Lieutenant Jinho Lee, who believed laws meant something, Engineer Hyun Nam, who kept everything running until the very end. Standing before their names, Daeho thought about what their deaths had accomplished. A galaxy that enforced medical neutrality, laws that protected healers, principles that meant something. Their deaths had purchased something valuable, not with their willing sacrifice because they had not chosen to die, but their deaths had not been meaningless. Humanity had made sure of that. Across human space, children learned about Hope's Dawn in school, not as a tragedy, not as a reason to hate aliens, but as a lesson about principles, about the importance of standing up for what is right, about the necessity of enforcing justice when others will not, about treating people as they treat you, because anything else just encourages bad behavior. The reciprocity doctrine had become part of human culture, not just government policy. Something deeper, a moral framework. Treat others as they treat you, not as they say they will treat you, not as they promise to treat you, as they actually treat you. Actions, not words. Consequences, not excuses. Other civilizations adopted similar policies. Some called it different names. Some applied it in different ways. But the core idea spread. The weak no longer accepted that the strong could do whatever they wanted. The powerless no longer stayed silent when wronged. The galaxy was learning that justice required action, not just good intentions. The Valthrex Empire had changed too. The high command that ordered the attack on Hope's Dawn was long gone, replaced by leaders who understood the cost of their predecessors' arrogance. Young Valthrex now learned about Hope's Dawn in their schools too. As a cautionary tale, as a reminder that actions have consequences, as proof that even the powerful can face justice if they push too far. Some Valthrex visited the memorial on Earth. They came to apologize for what their empire had done, to honor the dead, to promise it would never happen again. The humans welcomed them, not because the past was forgotten, but because the future could be different if everyone worked to make it different. Captain Daeho sometimes met these Valthrex visitors. He talked with them, answered their questions, told them about Dr. Murray and Nurse Sora and all the others. He did not hate them. Hate was exhausting and pointless. But he made sure they understood, made sure they knew exactly what their empire had done, made sure they would carry that knowledge with them. On the 50th anniversary of Hope's Dawn's destruction, the Galactic Council held a special ceremony. They created a new symbol to be displayed at every council meeting, a white ship on a red field, Hope's Dawn's silhouette. Underneath it, words in every galactic language: protected, sacred, enforced. Captain Daeho attended the ceremony, now very old and near the end of his life. He stood before the council and spoke briefly. He thanked them for remembering. He thanked them for learning. He thanked them for changing. And he reminded them one final time: this symbol means nothing if you do not enforce what it represents. Words are empty without action. Laws are meaningless without consequences. Remember Hope's Dawn. Remember what happened when laws were just suggestions, and never let it happen again. He died 3 months later, peacefully, surrounded by family and friends. His funeral was attended by thousands, humans and aliens alike, Valthrex and Korthan. Former enemies standing together to honor a man who had shown them all what it meant to stand for principle, what it cost, and why it mattered. His ship, Hope Renewed, continued serving under a new captain. The name would always pass to a new hospital ship: Hope's Dawn, Hope Renewed, Hope Eternal. The names changed, but the mission stayed the same: heal the sick, treat the wounded, save lives, and remind the galaxy, through action, that some things are sacred. Humanity never forgot the lesson it learned, never forgot what silence had cost, never forgot that justice requires enforcement. The reciprocity doctrine remained law, used rarely, but held ready. A reminder, a warning, a promise. The galaxy was not perfect. Laws were still sometimes broken. Justice was still sometimes denied. But it was better, measurably, undeniably better. Because one medical ship had burned. Because humanity had refused to accept that burning. Because 623 deaths had been made to matter. They assaulted Earth's Red Cross. They thought silence meant consent. They learned otherwise. The galaxy learned otherwise. And the lesson lasted. Because humanity never forgot. Because the victims were never forgotten. Because their silence would never mean consent.